Now that they knew where to fight Cerberus, Hackett advised Shepard that if they were to fully remove them from the conflict, the Reapers would know of their intentions, and by extension, they would need to deploy the Crucible almost immediately afterwards. The tracking device on Kylang's ship led to a system in the Horsehead Nebula, where Hackett personally led the force that attacked Kronos Station while Shepard searched it for the Prothean data. As they neared the centre of the space station with ED for technical support, Shepard's squad fought through a chamber holding what little could be salvaged from the human Reaper, with the centrepiece being the power core. When they found their objective, Shepard once again spoke with the Elusive Man, who was curiously absent from the space station, learnt that the missing piece of the Crucible was the Citadel, and was confronted by Kylang. Having discovered the same information about the Citadel from the Elusive Man, the Reapers moved to claim it and repositioned it above Earth, along with briefly bombarding the nearby planets in the Citadel's nebula, such as Beckenstein. As Alliance forces left Kronos Station, technicians removed the Reaper core in the hopes that it could be used as an alternative power source for the Crucible. With this revelation, the Allied species had no other option than to focus their efforts at Earth. Had the situation been different, Shepard's Allied forces could have hypothetically been sent against any significant planet to distract the Reapers, and such a decision could have become slowed by the same form of self-interest and squabbling that had caused such ineffective responses to the Reapers in the first place. Now, though, the only chance for success was for the newly unified galaxy to follow Shepard and Hackett, especially with the Reapers pushing against every front with greater intensity than ever before. Even previously uncontested planets like Cerberus were close to falling. Taking the unit's designated Sword Fleet, the majority of the space-based forces that had been gathered, and Hammer, all of the ground-based forces, and likely a handful of support craft, Shepard led the galaxy to Earth, while Hackett waited with shield fleets defending the Crucible. With momentum on their side, the Allied fleets were able to push back the Reapers for long enough to deploy the advanced waves of Hammer's ground teams to the surface of Earth. Shutting down the Reaper's Hades cannons preventing large-scale landings, the ground forces rendezvoused with Anderson and Earth's resistance in London. Even then, the Reapers were inflicting devastating losses on most of the scattered outposts along with the dropships, with only half of Hammer making it to the central forward operating base, with the rest either landing across the wider area, like many of Shepard's old squad mates, or were entirely wiped out. In short, the situation was desperate. Around the base, though, emotions were mixed, with some such as Garrison Javik already preparing for life after the Reapers, while Rex viewed Shepard's ability to bring the galaxy together as a victory in itself. Once the full attack to reclaim the Citadel occurred, the battle was fierce and saw the majority of the main force wiped out, while even Shepard's squad was pushed to the limit, narrowly bringing down the Reaper destroyer guarding the conduit beam with Thanix missiles. During the final race to the beam, Shepard's squad were gravely injured and needed to be evacuated from the ground battle, with Shepard staying behind mere moments before it was believed to have failed by a Reaper counterattack. With the Crucible already en route, most of the remaining ships moved to protect it, with Hackett receiving word that the attempt had narrowly succeeded. What happened next was likely never known for certain by the wider galaxy, but someone, assumed by most present at the battle to be Shepard, was able to disengage the Citadel's lockdown procedure and allow the Crucible to connect. At first, nothing happened, and Hackett had little option other than to hold position, while it seemed as if the galaxy had gambled and lost on the Crucible plan. Eventually, after minutes that must have felt like an eternity for those involved, a massive build-up of energy was detected as the Crucible activated. As a precaution, Hackett ordered all remaining ships to jump to FTL out of the immediate range as the Crucible's energy began to spread across Earth. On Palaven, Earth, Thessia, Tachanka, and dozens of other fronts across the galaxy, soldiers left to man the defences and keep the Reapers occupied fought bravely. Having been sent across the mass relay network, the Crucible's power began to strike planets across the entire galaxy. Reapers began to shut down and collapse, husks were vaporised by the energy, and the sounds of battle fell quiet, replaced by the cheers and celebration from those that had just been fighting them. What had seemed like countless numbers of hopeless fights moments before had just become a singular victory that swept across the galaxy. In the following days, several of the ships from the battle slowly returned to Earth to regroup with those left on the planet, while Hackett spoke of what had been sacrificed for the victory, and how it had been won by every species, every being in the galaxy. While this was true, with every species having contributed something to the battle to save Earth, whether it be entire fleets or a small handful of troops, it couldn't encompass the enormous truth that hid behind that statement. The victory wasn't one simply attained by the modern species, nor the Protheans that had stalled the Reapers, those who had initially formed the plans for the first iteration of the Crucible, attempted to construct it, and concealed the plans when they failed. Then each of the following cycles that repeated the process, trying, failing, and preserving the plans in the hopes that their successors would be able to complete it, or at least complete the stages they had. Now, those hopes had been fulfilled, and the galaxy could finally enter a new age, one free from the threat of the Reapers. Although the details were unknown, the galaxy began to slowly rebuild, seemingly within the lifetime of most of Shepard's old allies, with Rex, Grunt, and all the Krogan that were present on Earth returning to a hero's welcome on Tachanka in the process of rebuilding itself. Meanwhile, on an unknown jungle planet where the Normandy had crashed, Shepard's squad and crew held a memorial for those lost before leaving the planet, but they stopped themselves from placing Shepard's name on the memorial wall. After all, they could have been wrong. It wouldn't have been the first time Shepard returned from the dead. As the centuries rolled onwards, the Asari, Krogan, and Geth became the only species that still had those who could remember what it was like to fight mockeries of the galaxy's species, the fear that accompanied hearing the sound of Reaper horns. With this, there was the inevitable concern whether records of the Reapers alone would be enough to convey their threat, or if the curious, power-hungry, or insane would seek out the distant worlds where Reaper ships remained in ruins, and fall under indoctrination, in turn reawakening the nightmare. Yet there was the more immediate concern that, as the galactic civilization continued to rebuild, it would begin to fracture under the strain. Reports of the Krogan beginning to mobilise on a scale not seen since they fought the Reapers. Rumours of Liara returning to sites of old battles, and sightings of new agents carrying the mark of N7 searching across desolate worlds made it seem like the galaxy itself was moving back to a point where a single being, whether they were someone adept in the arts of biotics or an expert engineer, a stalwart soldier or a watchful sentinel, a precise infiltrator or a quick-on-the-draw vanguard, could shape its course just as Shepard had during the time of the Reapers.